जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोधनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोधनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Yogadharma Harinam Sankirtan ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikir. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Lord Rishabdev's teaching to the sons. So this is 4 slokas together. So we will recite first sloka, then you can all repeat, then we will read rest of the slokas. Hamsa Gurur Mayi Bhaktyanuvratya
Hamse Gurumai Bhaktyanuvratya
Rutra Vitra Vitrushnaya Dvandva Titikshaya Cha Sarvatra Jantor Vyasanavagatya Jignasaya tapaseha nivruttaya Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyānuvrutya
Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya
Vritrishnaya Dvandva Titikshaya Cha
Vrishnaya Bandha Tikshaya Cha
Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavatgatya
Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavagatya
Jignasaya Tapasahya Nivrittaya
Jignashaya Tapasaya Nivrittaya
Hamse Gurur Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya
Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya
Vitrishnaya Dvanda Titikshaya Cha
Vritrishnaya Dvandvati Dikshaya Cha
Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavatgatya
Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavagatya
Jignasaya tapaseha nivrittaya
Jignasaya Tapaseha Nivrittaya Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya
Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya
Vritnaya Dvandvati Dikshaya Cha
Vritsnaya Tanda Tidikshaya Cha
Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavagatya
Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavatgatya
Jignasaya Tapasaya Nivrittaya
Jignasaya tapasahya nivrittaya Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya Vritrishnaya Dvanda Titikshaya Cha Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavatgatya Jignasaya tapaseha nivrittaya
Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya
Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktyanuvrutya
Krishnaya Ganga Titikshaya Cha
Krishnaya
Titikshaya Cha Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavagatya Sarvatra Jantur Vyasanavagatya Jignasaya Tapasaya Nivrittaya Jignasaya Tapasaya Nivrittaya.
So I will read rest of the slokas. Mat karma bhir mat kataya cha nityam maddeva sangad guna kirtanan me nirvaira samyopasamayena putra jihasaya deha gehatma buddhe adhyatma yogena vibhikta sevaya pranedriyatma अभिजायेन सद्रक् सच्छद्रया ब्रह्मचर्येण शाश्वत असंप्रमादेन यमेन वाचं सर्वत्र मद्भावविचक्षणेन ज्ञानेन विज्ञानविराजितेन योगेन धृत्य उदयं सतं सत्वं युक्तो लिंगं व्यपोहेत kushaloham akhyam. So we will go directly to translation. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation: O my sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsas, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of God and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon, identi- identifying the self with the body and the home. Then practice reading the revealed scriptures, living in a secular place, and practice the process by which you can completely control your life, air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. Purport. In these 4 verses, Rishabdev tells his sons how they can be freed from the false identification arising from false ego and material conditional life. One gradually becomes liberated by practicing as mentioned above. All these prescribed methods enable one to give up the material body, lingam vyapohet, and be situated in his original spiritual body. First of all, one has to accept a bona fide spiritual master. This is advocated by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Guru Padashrayah. To be freed from the entanglement of the material world, one has to approach a spiritual master. Tad vijnanartam swa gurum avi eva gachet. By questioning the spiritual master and by serving him, one can advance in spiritual life. When one engages in devotional service, naturally the attraction for personal comfort, for eating, sleeping, and dressing is reduced. By associating with the devotees, a spiritual standard is maintained. The word Mad Deva Sangat is very important. There are many so-called religious devoted to the worship of various demigods, but here good association means association with one who simply accepts Krishna as his worshipable deity. Another important item is Dvandva Titiksha. As long as one is situated in the material world, there must be a pleasure and pain arising from the material body. As Krishna advised in Bhagavad Gita, Tam Titikshava Bharata, one has to learn how to tolerate the temporary pains and pleasures of this material world. One must also be detached from his family and practice celibacy. Sex with one's wife according to the spiritual injunctions is also accepted as brahmacharya celibacy. But illicit sex is opposed to religious principles and it is hampered advancement in spiritual consciousness. Another important word is Vijnana Virajita. Everything should be done very scientifically and consciously. One should be a realized soul. In this way, one can give up the entanglement of material bondage. As Madhvacharya point out the sum and substance of these 4 slokas in that one should refrain from acting out of desire for sense gratification and should instead always engage in the Lord's loving service. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the acknowledged path of liberation. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Adhyatma. Atmano vihitam karma vraja vitvanya karmanaha kamasya cha parityago nirihetya ahur uttamaha. One should perform activities only for the benefit of the soul. Any other activity should be given up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be desireless. Actually, a living entity cannot be totally desireless. But when he desires the benefit of the soul and nothing else, he is said to be desireless. Spiritual knowledge is Jnana Vijnana Samanvitam. When one is fully equipped with Jnana and Vijnana, he is perfect. Jnana means that one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu to be the Supreme Being. Vijnana refers to the activities that liberate one from the ignorance of material existence. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31, Jnanam paramam gyuhyam me yad vijnanam samanvitam. Knowledge of the Supreme Lord is very confidential, and the supreme knowledge by which one understands Him further the liberation of all living entities. This knowledge is Vijnana, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tattvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, takes his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamavyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratishave Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhupe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yatkrupatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So translation, it's a very big sloka. So almost there are so many instructions in these 4 slokas. So, O my sons, you should accept the highly elevated Paramahamsas, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification, tolerate the dualities of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of the living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerity and penances for the sake of devotion service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secular place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life, air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literature, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. So, you see, like this is a very nice instructions what Rishabdev is giving, Lord Rishabdev is giving to his sons. And we have seen like so many discussions before also, and like very nice instructions what Rishabdev gives, like tapo divyam putrakarena suddhena sattva. So it's all like very important for a sadhaka to come to the level of like pure devotional service. So, till now, what has been discussed in the previous slokas, we have seen like how to come out of this illusion, how to come out of this material entanglement, suffering, and how to cut these knots, Hridaya Granthi, which are there in the strongly made in the heart by Aham Mameti, by this thought that me and mine. So that's where like the person is been into the illusion and not able to come out of it. So in the previous sloka, still the 9th sloka, we have seen how to come out of this and how to become a liberated person. So that is being given, and this slokas, you can see like there are almost 25 instructions in this slokas, in this 4 slokas, like Rishabdev, Lord Rishabdev is giving to his sons. So we see like Rishabdev is a Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he has 100 sons, and he is giving these instructions. And who are all we? We are also the sons of the Lord. So like here Lord is giving the same instructions to all the living entities, because Lord himself says like aham bija padapita. So he is our spiritual father, and he is the one who has given the seed. So we are the part and parcel of the Lord. So these are the instructions, not only giving to his only 100 sons, but for all of us. And we see in Srimad Bhagavatam there are so many instances where Lord giving so many instructions, but those are instructions where that has been given in a story form. So one of the examples, like one of the story of a person is being taken, and that is been elaborately described. At the end there is a moral of the story. So that will be an instruction. But somehow we may forget the essence of the story, but we remember the story, but we sometimes forget the essence of the story. But here Rishabdev, Lord is so merciful that he is giving straightforward instructions. So what has to be done, what not to be done. So and mostly like these are the 25 instructions. If you see, they are all connected to the devotional activities. For a sadhaka, it's very, very important. So and if you see at the end of this translation, we can see like we will be able to give up the false ego. Why this false ego being described in the in this sloka? Because generally because of this ahankara, so the living entity always think or comes into the illusion. So it's a ahankara is a kind of a big wall where he is just behind this wall thinking that no, I am the doer. And because of this ahankara or the false ego, so he has developed so many illusions, like me, mine, then my family, my society, my wife, my children, my house, my country, my nation, my birthplace. So many comes in this connection because of this only one thing called ahankara. So this is which is very subtle actually. So ahankara comes last actually. Bhumi rapo analo vayu khammano buddhir evacha. So this one, the ahankar comes the last covering actually. So but it is very thick covering. So we see like whatever we do. So even though in the initial days of our Krishna consciousness, whatever service we do, whatever service we render, so whatever activity we do, we think like what is there for me? What is the benefit? What I will get it? So even though we chant, so what is the benefit we get? So then we have someone says like you will get you can control your mind, you will be able to focus, and you'll memory increases. So many things, material things they say, so that okay, you will get convinced. Okay, not for that, no, for the pleasure of the Lord. So the main goal of chanting is like just to please the Lord or for the pleasure of the Lord. We are just doing that. But when we have that kind of thinking like I am doing for the pleasure of the Lord, so automatically that these are the byproducts where concentration increases and focus increases, your mind will be controlled. Those are the secondary, right? But initially, until unless we are result oriented, right? So we are being motivated or being taught in our schools, in our colleges, in our corporate life also, we are being taught like this. Even in the schools also we can see so many says you have to study well so that you will come first. And they compare say you brought second, so see that boy he got first, so next time you should come for the first. So there is a result oriented. So you will get motivated by seeing the result, not that what you are gaining. No, that is the ultimate actually. So the rank may remain or tomorrow it will not. But what you have learned, what is the essence we are going to get, so that we generally forget. So this is how the nature is, this material world is. So always we will be fighting for this, if there is nothing, then we get demotivated. We don't get any interest to do that work. So selflessly we don't do. We have selfish motives. I will do this so that everyone will recognize me. Everyone will identify that I am a special. We know each and every living entity has a unique nature. So no one's nature matches. So Lord has created such a nice way, everyone's nature is different. Everyone is unique. But still we know that, but still we think I am little better than others. This is ahankar. They always think I am little better than others. Always they think I am something special. Even though everyone is special, but no. Out of all, I'm the special. So this is ahankar. This is a false ego which identify ourselves something special, right? So without that, we don't get motivated to work or to do any activity. So it's very subtle thing actually, but it's a very thick covering to come out of it. But here in this sloka, so Rishabdev is clearly explaining how to come out of this subtle body. So we know that there are two bodies, gross and subtle. So subtle body is mind, intelligence and false ego. So which are very difficult and we can't see, right? We can't see these things, but we can understand these are still present. And here the first instruction what Rishabdev gives, there are 25 things. Hope so we can quickly cover this in this today's class. So here there are 25 instructions. So by which when we follow this, so we can come to the stage of pure devotional service, and liberation will be very easily acquired. So here the first thing is what it is said. So you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa as a spiritually advanced spiritual master. So accepting a bona fide guru, that is the first step in our Krishna conscious activity. So we know in each and every field, if you take in our schools also, wherever we go, there is a teacher. There is a required of a teacher where we can get some kind of right guidance from them so that we can understand it and perform well, right? So in the same way, in the spiritual sense also, we need a teacher. Without teacher, we may not able to understand it better and apply it in our life. And who should be a teacher, that is also very important. So the teacher should be a bona fide one, so who is coming under a disciplic succession. So the teacher should be having his teacher, and that teacher should be having his teacher. So there will be one teacher who will be teaching his teachings to the students, and one day that student becomes a teacher by appointing who the teacher will appoint his student as a teacher for the next generation. So like that he should be connected in a line. And who should be he? He should be spiritually advanced. So nowadays we can see, like, there are so many so-called spiritual leaders. We can see they do all kind of nonsense activities, like, and so many people they go for some material benefits, like, I want this with some material problems, this, that. And we can see, like, even teacher is having the same, teacher is also doing the same what disciple is doing. So then what is the difference between teacher and disciple? So teacher should be one who can walk the talk. Whatever he is saying, he should be following it, and he should inspire his disciples to follow it. Not that he forces the disciples to do it. It should be inspired, not to force. So he should be he can be considered as a teacher. And you can see, like, in the purport also, Prabhupada nicely talks about this spiritual master, right? Here Prabhupada says, like, to be free from the entanglement of the material world, one has to approach a spiritual master. By questioning the spiritual master and by serving him, one can advance in spiritual life. So these two are the very important qualities of a disciple. So disciple should be very inquisitive to inquire from the spiritual master, and he should be ready to serve. So when he serves the teacher by his sincere attempt, he will be given the knowledge. Not that, I pay you money, so you have to give me knowledge. No, that is the wrong way. So whenever you render service and submissively inquire whatever your doubts are there, we don't question Guru that, what is this, what is that. We submissively inquire, how to do that, how to do this, how to understand this. So these are very difficult. I read it, but I am not able to understand it. How to understand this? So in this way, we submissively inquire the questions. So whatever doubts we have, we ask, and we get the answers from the spiritual master. And when we serve him, he will be ready to give that knowledge, spiritual knowledge to us. So until unless we don't serve the spiritual master, we may not able to understand this spiritual science. Similarly, if you see, like, so many people they wanted to see the Lord. If they keep asking, like, show me the God, show me the God, I want to see the God. So it's difficult for them to, not only for them, it's difficult to see the Lord, because it's not that material element or to show, like, this is the Lord. But you see, in the material context also, so many things we can't see. But by the help of a teacher, we can understand, like, okay, yes, this still exists, like microbes, microorganisms, which we can't see from our eyes. But by the help of the teacher, we can understand it. Similarly, we can't see the God, but how can we see? When we approach a spiritual master, when we approach a spiritual teacher, so by his the knowledge what he gives, with that knowledge we can able to perceive the Lord or to see the Lord. So this can be happen when we submissively serve him. When we serve, when we go and serve, and by pleasing him. So when we render service to the spiritual master, it should be in a pleasing way. And when he pleases, so by his blessings, by his the knowledge what he gives, so with that we can able to see and understand the Lord. So or else it is very difficult. So people, they generally come and ask, like, I want to see the God, but they don't follow this. So when they follow this, then it's easy for them to able to perceive the Lord. So Lord is there everywhere, but we can't see this. Microorganisms are everywhere, but we can't see. So when you have a right knowledge how to see it, so we can able to see that. So this is the first thing, like, we should have a spiritual master. And when we engages in devotional service, naturally the attraction for personal comfort for eating, sleeping and dressing is reduced. So these are the very important thing. So when we are practicing spiritual activities, or when we practicing this devotional service, So this material comfort automatically will reduce. It's not that you forcefully give it up. So as soon as when you develop the taste in spiritual devotional services, so then this material taste will reduce. So this is the we can see, like, how we are progressing devotional service. So still there are so many people, they keep asking, like, I'm practicing for so many years, but still I'm in the same position. I didn't see any progress. Means still you have not given up the material attachments. So you are still holding these material attachments and trying to progress in devotional service, which is not possible. So you want to progress in spiritual, you want to advance in devotional service, then you should have to give up this material attachments. So basic things are required, like, in the previous slokas also we have seen. So you have to maintain, we have to earn so much, so that, like, where you can maintain your body and soul together. That much you have to earn, not more than that. So if you are earning more than that, means, like, you will get entangled into this material things. So you have to give up this. And by association with the devotees, a spiritual standard is maintained. So to maintain the spiritual standard, we should be in the association of devotees. So alone we can't sit in this Kali Yuga. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Even for that matter, we say, like, you want to come first in the class, then you should sit with the intelligent people, the one who is good at studies. Not that you sit in the back bench and you will not come first. So similarly, in the devotional practice also, when you want to be maintained in your devotional service or devotional attitude, then you have to mingle with the devotees who are like-mindedness. So the word Maddeva Sangat is very important. So this Sangha, this association is very important. So there are many so-called religious devoted to the worship of various demigods, but they hear good association means association with no one, simply accept Krishna as his worshipable deity. So this is, we don't accept this. So generally me and Krishna and no one else. So that is, we don't accept actually. So for this example, Srila Prabhupada gives, like, a telescope. So if there are less number of lenses inside, so we can't perceive clearly the longer distance items, whatever there. So when there are many lenses in between, so we can see, like, we can see the picture very clearly, right? So similarly, these are the lenses. The lenses are called as the Guru Parampara, like, spiritual masters. So they, without their help, we may not able to see the Krishna very clearly. So with their help, with the help of a guru, with the help of the senior devotees, with the help of the disciple succession, we can able to perceive the Lord. We can have the clear picture or understanding of the Lord. Or else, like, we see, like, Prabhupada has given this Srimad Bhagavatam, by which, like, we are able to understand so many things. If Prabhupada doesn't give this Srimad Bhagavatam, you just get a Sanskrit version of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very difficult for us to understand, right? Even without purport, it is very difficult to understand just by translation. So we may speculate so many things, but here, by the acharyas, with the help of acharyas, we can able to perceive or understand in a right way. So that's where, like, it's very important. And as we say, like, acharya means, like, one who teaches with his own example, right? So like this, we should ready to accept a spiritual master. Without spiritual master, it's very difficult to progress in spiritual life or to see Krishna. Then next one, and one more thing is very important here in the translation. It is said, in this way you should place your faith and love in me. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is very important. So Krishna generally tests our faith based on the faith how much we have on the spiritual master. So it's very important. So a Diksha Guru, we should have a lot of faith on the spiritual master. So even we, in the previous classes also, we have seen who is Krishna. Krishna is Sevya Bhagavan and Guru is Sevak Bhagavan. And without having a faith on Sevak Bhagavan, we may not able to achieve Sevak Bhagavan, Sevya Bhagavan. So it's very important to have a spiritual master in our life. So, and we should have that full faith that Guru is going to help me to advance in spiritual in the spiritual path, and he will help us to go back home, back to Godhead. Without spiritual master, it's very difficult to go back home, back to Godhead. There are no more. No, we can't see any kind of story or example in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no story or no example saying that he himself has went to back home, back to Godhead without spiritual master. No, with spiritual master only it's possible. So it's very important in our Krishna consciousness, we see in our society. So this initiation takes very major role, for a disciple. So it's very important to accept a spiritual master and follow and serve him nicely, follow his instructions, by which we can please him, and we can sure guarantee that we can go back home, back to Godhead. And next one is detaching from the matter. So this is the second instruction. You should detest sense gratification. So that is the second one. So this means that generally we have to overcome our tendencies for sense gratification. So we say spiritual practice and devotional service and sense gratification doesn't go together. So if you are practicing spiritual Krishna consciousness, then you should give this sense gratification tendencies, or else it's difficult to progress. So next, third one is tolerate dualities, pain and pleasures. So we see in this material world, it's all dual nature only. So there is a pain, there is a pleasure also. There is a black, white, there is summer, winter, there is day, night. So everything is in dual actually. So but how to overcome it? Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says Tanti Dikshava Bharata. So you should tolerate this pain and pleasures. So there is no other way. So they come and they go. So without any endeavor, they can go also. So just what you have to do, just you have to tolerate. If you respond, if you overreact or try to think how to overcome it, then it's very difficult. So best thing is to tolerate. Tolerate these changes, pleasure and praise, which are all dual in nature. And fourth one is realizing the miserable condition of the jiva. So understanding the suffering of the living entity, we have to understand that suffering is this is the nature of this material world. So this material world is full of suffering. So and we should understand everyone here is not happy, everyone is suffering. So this world is created in that way. So and it says here, it says this kind of suffering is there not only in this world, in all this material world, in even the higher planetary system. If you go even to the Brahma Loka, Abrahma Bhuvanan Loka, so from the topmost planet Brahma Loka, Satya Loka, to the down to the Patalas, there is suffering everywhere. So so we should understand so the jivas who are there in this material world everyone is suffering. Next one is fifth one. It is said philosophically inquire about the truth. So this is truth means we should inquire about the Supreme Lord. So and process to how to achieve the Supreme Lord. So that is what we have to philosophically understand, that that is bhakti. So how to understand means the spiritual truth is to understand the spiritual Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to how to achieve Him. So that is nothing but the process of bhakti. and next then undergo all kind of austerities for the sense enjoyment. So that is one more, like undergo all kind of austerity and penances for the sake of devotional service. So this human form of life is meant for to perform austerities and penances, not for sense gratification. So this is the only life where we have a chance to come out of this entanglement. So without doing these austerities and penance is very difficult to come out of it. So devotional service means doing some kind of austerity. Like for us, the austerity is like attending morning program, doing japa, like reading scriptures, hearing the lectures, and being associating with the devotees and trying to take only prasad. So these are the austerities for us. And then give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment. So that's we already discussed. Like if you want to progress in devotional service, you have to give up this tendency of sense enjoyment, and always engage in the service of the Lord. So this is the solution for the sense gratification. How to overcome the sense gratification? Just always engage in the devotional activities. If not, like it's difficult to overcome the sense gratification, because wherever you go, there are a lot of advertisement, billboards, like that's all shows, like even the advertisements what's there. So they all trigger, like to do more sense gratification, right? So just to come out of it, so we have to take up this engage in the service of the Lord. So whenever we come to the temple, try to take some services to in that way, like we purify our heart. So when we do services, the heart will get purified, because our heart is filled with this sense gratification contamination, so impurities. So when we render services with full hearted, so that will help us to come out of this sense gratification tendencies. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is very important, like by hearing or by listening to the discussions about the Supreme Lord, we develop the taste. Until unless we don't hear, we don't get taste in devotional activities. So this is a very important, this is the first step. Shravanam is a very important thing. So by just doing Shravanam, we develop the taste and we practice Krishna consciousness. And always associate with devotees. So try to give the association of worldly mindedness, because that consciousness matters a lot. So they have a lot of consciousness about material enjoyment. So when we give up this kind of consciousness or those kind of association, and associate with the people who have the higher consciousness, that is spiritual consciousness. So when we associate with the devotees, we also develop that kind of consciousness, and that will help us to practice nicely Krishna consciousness. Chant about and glorify Supreme Lord. So the chanting process is very important for us. This is the basic one. So that is the only process, like seva which we do focusedly for 2 hours. So other services, maybe it varies or distracts, but japa we focusedly, consciously do it for 2 hours, and which helps us a lot in our consciousness to develop this spiritual, to progress spiritually and glorify the Supreme Lord. So Lord has unlimited glories, there is no end. Ananta Shesh, with his unlimited mouth, he keeps glorifying the Lord, but still it never ends. So those many glories are there. So one more best thing of glorifying the Supreme Lord is reading the scriptures. So if you see, like Bhagavatam is filled with glories of the Lord. So when we read, we can, like it's like one of the kind of glorifying the Lord. So generally it's we don't have that much ability to glorify the Lord every day. We didn't have practice, but by just repeating whatever has been there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we develop that kind of nature, and naturally after few practice after some time of practice, we can able to glorify the Lord, whenever we approach the Lord. So that is very important for us. So to chant and glorify the Supreme Lord, and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. So we should Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, Lord also says, he is equal to everyone. And even Pandita Samadarshana, a learned, he never sees anyone he never differentiate the living entity. So he see a dog eater, a elephant, and a brahmana in a equal position. Equal position means not treating a brahmana equally with the dog. No. So as per their abilities, their nature, we try to respect them. So that is seeing them in seeing everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity. So this is one of the demon sitting in our heart, enmity, we generally develop this kind of nature, enmity. But this is not a good nature for a devotee. So we should give up this inimical nature. Rather, we should be very friendly, accommodative to everyone. So that will help us to progress more in the spiritual path, but rather than developing this kind of enmity. So in the scriptures it is said, even Prabhupada mostly says, devotees don't have any enemies, right? So they don't have any enemies. So if we have some kind of inimical nature for someone, this means we are not a devotees, right? So we should give up this nature, inimical nature, and have very friendly nature with the devotees, have very friendly relationship, very nice, loving and caring relationship with the devotees. So that helps us and glorify the devotees, what we call qualities. So with this, we can come closer to the devotees, and we don't see any faults in others. So when we have this misunderstanding, so we generally develop this kind of inimical nature. So to overcome it, so we try to serve each other very nicely and glorify whatever the good qualities they have. Even one quality, good quality they have, glorify it, so that they will be not feel you are my enemy or I am their enemy. So they will feel very friendly and they will be very close to us. So with this we can give up this inimical nature and subdue anger and lamentation. So these things generally we see in the material world. So when we want to something achieve, we don't achieve it, then we feel anger and we lament for that, right? So this we have to subdue it. So we don't use anger in devotional service much. So until unless it is related to the Lord or devotee, so we generally use it for other services, but not for our own egoistic problems. We don't use it. So we have to give up those things and abandon, identify the self with the body. So self, body and the home. So in the previous slokas also Rishabdev clearly mentioned me and mine. So when we think that I am the doer, then this comes this our material things increases, so this kind of identifying ourselves with the body has to given up. So we know we are the part and parcel of the Lord and we are the spirit souls. So we should try to understand it and act accordingly. This is a body, this will there today and tomorrow it goes off. So but I am the eternal, so I am a spiritual spark, I am a spiritual soul. So I should not have any connection or develop connections with this body and related to this body. So but we can use this body in the service of the Lord. Without this body, it's difficult to practice spiritual Krishna consciousness. So since we have got this human body, so let's use this body in a right way. So not that we use this body only for the eating, meeting, sleeping and defending. So So there is a higher purpose for which we got this body. So we got this mind, intelligence, and this body, and we use this in a right way, in a spiritual, to understand spiritual consciousness, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. So as we already discussed, so we should, for a sadhaka, it's very important. Reading and hearing is very important. So under the guidance of the authorities, we should read, and we should, if you have any doubts, we should approach them for the clarification, for the better understanding, and that is very important. And live in a secular place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life, air, mind, and senses. So living in secular place is, for the Kali Yuga, it's very difficult. So we can't see forest now. So even though if you see forest, if you go, by seeing a small insect, we'll run away. So it's very difficult to sit in a secluded place like forest, like kind of. So but better than that is to come to the temple, and that's a secluded place for us. So when we come into the temple, as soon as when we enter, so we don't think much about the outside place, right? Materialistic places. So as soon as when we come inside, we feel something peaceful, and we can see that positive energies there in this temple, and we try to do more spiritual activities within the temple, so that we can also get benefited, and control life, air, mind, and senses. So how to control this? So mind and senses has to be engaged in the service of the Lord, that is Rishikena Rishikesa Sevanam. So that is very important. Without that, we can't control them. So it's very important. And have full faith in the revealed scriptures, so the Vedic literatures. So whatever we are reading the scriptures, so we should also understand which are authorized scriptures. There are so many Bhagavad Gitas in the market. I heard even Prabhupada in the preface, he writes, or in the introduction, in preface I think, he writes that there are 55 versions of Bhagavad Gita in the market. And he felt why should I read it? Why should I write one more Bhagavad Gita? But one lady in the America, she approached saying that which Bhagavad Gita should I read? There are so many confusions. Then Prabhupada thought yes, I should write a authentic Bhagavad Gita with he mentions this, I should write a Bhagavad Gita as it is, and so that there should be no interpretations in between. You can see there are some authorized scriptures from which we can get a right knowledge. If not, we take some book, so we read it, but we don't we will be misguided, misdirected. So we will not achieve the purpose of the life, right? We should read the revealed scriptures, have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. So here Prabhupada also mentions in the purport celibacy means, it is said, one must also be detached from the family and practice celibacy. This is for the brahmacharis, and for the sex with one's wife according to the spiritual injunctions is also accepted as a brahmacharya, celibacy. So, but illicit sex is opposite to the religious principles, and it hampers advancement in spiritual consciousness. So this is very important. So this life is not meant for having these kind of bad activities. Rather, we should have a celibate life, we should be very chaste, and we should practice the celibacy. And for the grahasthas, it is mentioned, they have to follow the injunctions, scriptural injunctions, so, and practice accordingly. So they are also who are all practicing according to the spiritual injunction, they are also comes under the category of brahmacharya, which is celibacy. But if someone is not, what is the benefit of following the celibacy? So when we follow the celibacy, then it doesn't hamper our spiritual progress. Or else, if you are not following the celibacy, then definitely there is a lot of impediments or the hamper in advancement in spiritual consciousness. So our consciousness generally goes down. So when you follow celibacy, the consciousness increases, it goes top. Then yes, perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. So even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advises Arjuna to do his duty. So in a spiritual way, how do we do our duty? So when whatever duties we are doing, we will be thinking the Lord is the one who is giving this everything. So we keep Lord as a center and do our activities. Then it comes at a, it will not be a karmakanda activity. It becomes a spiritual activity. And we should give up this unnecessary talks like prajalpa. So even this is the tendency amongst the devotees also. Whenever they come together, instead of glorifying the Lord, they speak so many prajalpas. Now, what is happened in the whole week or whole month, what you did, what that devotee did, what he spoke to about me, and these prajalpa talks like goes out, Gramya Katha. So Acharyas, especially Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they condemn this kind of nature, like we should give up this Gramya Katha. Gramya na sunibe, there is one sloka which comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, like we should give up this material, worldly talks. So there is no benefit in talking about that. So better, like we should avoid it. And better, the best way is use that time what is being given to you by glorifying the Lord. So just by glorifying the Lord, we use that in a right way. We use the time in a right way and use our tongue in a right way. Others, like it creates unnecessary disturbance or quarrel. So just by speaking about some other devotee or some other person, so we are going into trouble. We are creating ourselves trouble. Like you know this example of a frog. So it keep making sound. So because of that, it is inviting its death. Snake. So wherever frogs make sound, crack crack. So then snake comes and eats it. So it's easy for him to get a food for a snake. So but if it doesn't make any sound, then it will be saved. So we should avoid this unnecessary talks, and always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Acquire knowledge from the right source. So this is very important. So how to overcome this thinking about the others in a material way, how to come out of this material consciousness layer? You have to always think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are unlimited glories of the Lord, unlimited qualities of the Lord. So try to think about the Lord. So whenever we do some activity, try to meditate always on the Lord and try to connect. So see the Lord's hand in it. So without that, it's very difficult. So thinking is very difficult. So initially we have to force our mind to think about the Lord. But later on, by the certain period of practice, so it will become automatic, right? So it will keep thinking about the Lord. So that can happen. It can be practiced and it can be achieved. And acquire knowledge from the right source. So this is also very important. People are getting cheated by the cheaters without knowing that from where should I get the right knowledge. So people approaches different so-called spiritual institutions, but they are being cheated, right? So we should know which is the right source from where I can get this knowledge. So even in Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he has a full authentic schools from where you can get the right knowledge. So we also, ISKCON comes under this authentic school. So whatever we are discussing, so whatever we are reading, so that is the right source for which we can get the right knowledge. So thus practice Bhakti Yoga. So this is very important. So all other yogas, they don't teach us how to come out of or how to liberate ourselves. So only Bhakti Yoga will teach us how to come out of this cycle of birth and death. So the practice, all the above instructions what we have seen, That's all comes under this bhakti yoga. And by practicing all these 25 instructions in this sloka, in these 4 slokas, so that is like, we are practicing bhakti yoga. So we will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge. So by practicing bhakti yoga, we will be elevated to the higher platform, and with this we will be able to give up our false ego, so which is a thick covering. In Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita 3. Which is a sloka 3.27, which is called Prakrute Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasaha Ahankara Vimudatma Kartaham iti manyate. So in from starting Bhagavad Gita from chapter 2 to chapter 18, there are so many slokas talks about this ahankara actually. So there are so many slokas in 13th chapter, in 18th chapter, in a 3rd chapter. So we can understand, even though Prakriti is doing everything, but because of that ahankara, because of this false ego, living into the things that I am a doer. But who is the doer here? Prakriti is a doer. And but why he is thinking that he is a doer? Because Vimudatma. He is foolish, not Mudha, he is Vimudatma, because it is called Vishishta Rupena, Mudha. Prabhupada says, he's been super foolish, Prabhupada says. So he is not ordinary foolish, he is super foolish, because everything is not being done by him, but still he says that I am a doer. So with this we can say he is a very grossly foolish person. So how to overcome this? Understand that he is not a doer, he is just an observer, and he is just a nimitta matra, he is just a observer, and the Lord is doing everything. And by practicing all this, the instructions what is being given by the Rishabdev, we can easily overcome this false ego, or else it is very difficult. So these are the straightforward instructions what Rishabdev is giving for every one of us. So some we are following some of the instructions, and some we are not able to. So we don't know also. So by nicely understanding this, today we can try to practice it and overcome this false ego, ahankara. Without that, it's difficult to progress in our spiritual process. So with this, I would just pause today's class. It was over time. I thought to finish very fast, but each and every there are 25 instructions, so to cover in a short period it's really difficult. I just given a glimpse of it. So maybe senior devotees, whenever we get a time to hear from them, so we can go in deeper, we can understand much deeper. So with this, I just paused this class. I think no questions, because it's already worked. So, Grandraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai.